Hey everybody, Mike with Games Played Badly, and I am recording this in my upstairs office because the studio is under construction again. We're making some additional changes for a project that we have coming up. So I apologize for the sound quality, but the interview was shot in the studio, so that should be great. On this episode of Session 0, I have Jonathan from Wendigo Workshop. Now we're going to talk about several different projects that they're working on, but one of them is their collaboration with Awfully Queer Heroes on a game called Adventures in ADHD. Now that launched on Kickstarter March 22nd, so we're a little late with the video unfortunately, but I will have links to the Kickstarter down below. Please take a look and check it out. We also talk about a kids game that Wendigo has developed called Claws and Paws. If you're interested in stuff like that, stick around. As usual, I have my Dungeon Glitch shirt on. You can actually see this one pretty good up close and personal. These are done by Gemmed Firefly, Matt specifically, and this is actually part of the Dungeon Glitch collection, which is more of a D&D and fantasy collection of shirts, but there are different collections up on the website, so by all means take a look. Go to gemmedfirefly.com and poke around. If you find something you like, add to your cart, and when you get ready to check out, put in our discount code BADLY15, BADLY 15 at checkout for 15% off your order. Jonathan is right around the corner. I can't wait for you to meet him. That interview starts now. Hi, John. How are you?
I'm good, I think. No, really, I'm good. Just had a little bit of winter, but everything else is fine. So,
right, we're doing this off your iPhone because there's some power issues by you, eh?
yeah, well, right now, for some reason, it seems fine. But who knows, right? I have troubles with my power, but I don't know. Who knows what will happen, but I prefer doing it on my phone because
No,
I don't want
that's
it.
fine. You look great. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't want it to cut and like having to start like all over again or things like that. So at least my phone has its own Wi-Fi thing. So
Right. Yeah. So now you're with Wendigo Workshop and
yeah.
producing some pretty awesome stuff. One of the things that I was interested was the Adventures in ADHD. Now that's a 5e supplement. Why don't you tell me more about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, Adventure in ADHD, it's a 5e module that is made by Awfully Queer Heroes, but we are working with them on it. Like we help for marketing and like promoting it. We also will be doing like editing and backgrounds, a couple of illustrations too, and reading through the project and doing things. But it's like a collaboration more than our project. Like it's not us that is doing it, but we're doing quite a bit of a lot of job on it. Still, like as I said, like the editing, putting the book together, marketing, a little bit of promo to be sure that the Kickstarter is really successful. And yeah, it's a 5e module that is aiming to educate and help people understand more about ADHD in itself, because surprisingly, it's a condition that is not that much known. Like people usually are depicted as, oh yeah, you have ADHD, so you don't listen, or you have a hard time concentrating on things. But there are so many different kind of like ADHD symptoms that are less obvious than others, that you might think that you don't have it, but looking through the different things, you say, oh well, maybe I have something and I might have, I should probably get help and see if this is something that touches me. So hopefully the module in itself is made by someone who has ADHD and different people that have different symptoms from it. So they all came together to like create a module that will help people understand this condition better. So there's less judgment. Well, hopefully there's less judgment and more understanding about this condition.
Yeah, it looks like it's set for a certain level range of characters, and there's some additional spell. There's some spell stuff in. There's a whole bunch of stuff in that module.
Yeah, there's a couple of spells and classes and monsters that all touches different aspect of ADHD. So instead of just being a big block of text that just explain what ADHD is, it's really integrated into gameplay. So you play through the module and like you discover different aspects of it through the game. So it's educating, but it remains fun.
Well, I think what it is you're learning through the gameplay, and it's not like it's here's something that you need to learn. It's you're learning it through the actual gameplay of the module.
Yeah, exactly. With this story that is like your characters are not forced, but there's something through the gameplay that pushes your character to have some of the ADHD symptoms. And since it's in the Feywild, it's kind of fit that there's a lot of things to do, and it's quite whimsical and weird, and there are different things that happen. So through that, you just learn also how to understand better maybe your friends that have it, or some of your family, your friends, and you can just, well, hopefully we're trying to break a bit of the stereotypical views on this condition through a 5e module, because some people find it easier to learn through games than learning through classes.
Sure. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in using games in educational settings, because you don't realize that you're learning, but you're learning. When it comes to role-playing games in general, as far as children go, you're looking at conflict resolution and all sorts of different things. And so I could see how this could be used in a way to help educate people as to what ADHD is and what some of the more or less common symptoms are.
Yeah, because as I said before, people have really usually one view on what ADHD actually is. Like it's usually, oh yeah, you don't listen, oh you have difficulties concentrating, oh you have this and that, and like you have to do multiple things at the same time, so you're bored easily, or things that are obvious. But there are things that are less obvious, or maybe you have one of these but it's not strong enough for you to consider maybe that you have ADHD. But there are so many different people and different views on it, and it's sure that an experience of like one person is not representative of the experience of everybody, but having multiple people with this condition working on this project, like playtesting and checking it out, reading it, I think that there's enough people working and reading through the project that we were able to represent enough differences so people can see themselves and learn about either themselves or their friends through this 5e modules. And it's 5e because it's easy to do, and most people know 5e, so it's quite easy to just pick up the module and play through, instead of pick up the module, learn the rules of the game, and play the module afterwards. So like with 5e, it's easy. You know the rules, you pick up the module, you play through it, and you already know how it's played. So
yeah, you don't have to focus on the gameplay as much as you actually focus on the content of the module.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you already know the rules, you don't have, as you said, you don't have to concentrate on how to play the game. You just go through the story, go through the module, and you just have fun.
Yeah, I think that's a great project. There's another project that's out there called Over Isles, which is another game that is using the game itself to teach people ASL, or American Sign Language. So I mean, I love the fact that people are using games they're using a vehicle that we all love to help people learn some things, and you do it almost effortlessly. So I am looking forward to it. So March 22nd is that. And then you also have something else. I mean, Wendigo has several different products out, but one of the things that I was I thought was adorable is it Claws and Paws?
Yeah, it's a small game. Well, we are aiming at like maybe something like 100-page-ish to just include maybe a little story, so you can learn the game through a very small scenario. But yeah, it's a small game that we had the idea to do because we have like, well, through the team we have more, but like at our house we have 6. So like going through that, we were like, but what if we made a small game that is more for children? Because we do a lot of content that is for 5e or for our own game, and it's more like maybe teenager and up, maybe a little bit children, but usually it's like teenagers and up, because our D&D content is more horror theme. So we like, it's not really for children that much. But in our early game, well, it's more complicated to learn the rules, not that much, but like usually we go 10 and up for just to be sure. But that game was more aimed toward really children that are maybe 4, 5, 6. At least they can read a little bit and count to 6.
Right.
But we created this game because we wanted to have an option for parents to be able to play with their kids, because that's one of the things that we didn't have like through our project. We have other projects in the background that we're not working on right now, but the really thing that we didn't have was a project that was for kids and for their parents to be able to interact with their kids and work and like play together and have this role-playing story time feeling that we could bring to them. So we thought about, what do kids like? And we're like, well, they like animals, they like dinosaurs, they like things like that. So we started with Claws and Paws, which is a game within which you play animals or dinosaurs or magical animal. I don't know, you play whatever you want, actually, depending on what kind of story you want to tell. We made quite simple rules because, well, children don't like to have 20 million rules to remember. So we made rules that fit on one sheet.
Nice.
Like, you have your character sheet includes all the rules on it. So you have some little variation that you can use if you want, like maybe as the parent, you say, oh, I need to find some inspiration for this thing, so I'm gonna look through the book. But the actual rules and gameplay are on the character sheet, because children won't go through the book to find things. Like, it's on the sheet, it's in front of them. And like all the things are with D6, because everybody have D6. I mean, you can just open a board game and you have D6.
Right.
So it's quite easy for them to find the material to play. And usually you have stats. You roll. If you have 2, you roll 2 dice. You pick the highest number, and that's it. So it's quite simple. It's easy to remember what you have to do. And depending on the role you have different kind of results that do something. Like if you roll a 6, for example, you succeed super good and you have something else, like you're rewarded something else. But if you have, for example, a 1, then you don't succeed at what you have, but you also gain some sort of drawback that is included in the story. Like every result leads to something in the story. Like it's not just, oh, you failed.
Right.
It's always like, oh, you failed, but, or oh, you succeed, but, and there's always like continuing the story through what happens to your character. So you kind of continue to be invested in the story, like whether you succeed or fail, you always like move forward with what happened next.
Yeah, I mean, it's to have like basically a 1-page game makes it easy, especially for parents who maybe don't play games all that often. It makes it easier for not only the child, but the parent to learn the game.
Yeah, I mean, the parent can go through the book, or they can just like, I have the character sheet and that's what happens. So you don't have like, as I said, there's like some little things like, oh, but in the book it's written, okay, characters don't die, like, because children don't like it when the character dies.
Right. Yeah, right.
And so there's like little sections about, since it's a game that is more aimed to young ones, I mean, you can play with the group of your friends as adults. I mean, it's not like you can't play if you're above like 10.
Right.
But like there's little paragraphs about like, okay, but characters don't die because children don't like it when a character dies. Or if you want to include death, you have to find a way to introduce it like to your children, and how death is seen as like how you teach your children about death.
Right.
Like in Disney movie, when a character dies, like there's emotion to go through with that, and you have to be sure that your children are ready to hear about these subjects, because you don't want them to be like crying at the table.
That's not when you have kids crying at the table. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, as I said, usually children don't like it when their character dies, and like usually it serves no real purpose in children's game, instead outside of it being maybe a secondary character because you want to teach your children about how grief is and what it is and how to deal with it. But outside of that, it's something that we try to like avoid, and we have a little section about the safety tool because we want to be sure that everyone that plays are fine with what is being told at the table too. Sure, it's for children, so the stories are simple and not very complicated, but I mean, who knows what people are going through, so this is something that we really wanted to incorporate too.
Well, and parents know their children the best, so if they're not able to deal with certain concepts at whatever age they are at, it allows parents to kind of tune the game in a specific direction, so that way those things aren't dealt with.
Yeah, exactly. And if they play with their child and like their friends, well, they don't know their friends, so there's like ways to deal with like they know their own child, but maybe their friends they don't. So we still wanted to integrate it because I mean, who knows, children sometimes they can be surprising. So
yeah, they definitely can be.
So I mean, as a company, we try to keep one thing, and it's really being accessible for people, because outside of doing our own thing, we also like to work with other people a lot. So like for everything like writing or translation or illustrations or maps or whatever they need, be like, I don't want to say cheap because I don't like cheap, but you know, we try
you're
to
more
give,
accessible.
Yeah, we try to give them prices that are for us are fine, but they're not industry standards because we accept it. Like we do the thing ourselves. We're not paying anybody to do it. So like we say, okay, this is fine for us. It's an okay salary. We can live with that, but it's accessible for people because industry standard prices are expensive and some cannot afford that, but we still want to give the opportunity to people to create games because I mean, sometimes the only thing that keeps you from creating your game is money.
right, yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I totally understand that. Well, John, I have something I do with my interviews, and I do something called a quick fire challenge or a lightning round, or I say it differently in every video. And it's just some silly questions I ask, so that way people get a chance to know who you are. And they're a very hard hitting, very tough questions. So if you don't want to answer one, just tell me you don't want to answer one. Okay.
Okay, that's
all right.
fine.
So this is the first question: chocolate or vanilla?
I would say that's a difficult question, but I think I will be saying vanilla. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're one of the few.
Yeah.
Everyone always goes chocolate.
Because I actually don't like chocolate that much. I like some things that are chocolate flavored, but I don't like it that much. Like most of the chocolate are like cheap, and I don't like the taste of bad chocolate. So like the only one I like is the expensive ones.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think I would say vanilla just because
I get you.
It's easier. Okay. It's easier to find.
Right. All right. So on that same vein, because apparently I'm getting hungry, cake or pie? Do you like pies or do you like cakes more?
I think I'll say pie.
Okay. Do you have a favorite pie?
Yeah. I think I'll say apple. That's one
Apple
of my
pie?
favorite. Yeah.
Okay. Pretty good.
Yeah, I like it. Or maybe sugar pie, I think. I don't know if it's that in English, but it's like with maple syrup and thing. It's pretty good.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, see, and since you like vanilla and you like apple pie, you've got to have it a la mode. So you have the pie and the ice cream. That's the perfect combination. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, look at that. I will posit something else. Vanilla with a chocolate brownie. Pretty good too.
Yeah, that's pretty good too. I mean, homemade brownies are good.
Right. Yeah. I didn't ask cake, pie, or brownie, because brownies would win every time, I think. When it comes to, because you guys do a lot of 5e content, what is your favorite class to play in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, I'll answer my favorite class in basically every freaking game I play, and I would say Druid.
Druid?
Yeah.
I just started
I play like Druid in every games I play, like or something that could resemble it, because I don't know, it was my first character and I really liked it was my first Pathfinder character was a Druid, and I really liked the flavor in the class, so now I just play Druids everywhere.
Yeah, but I understand.
I mean, I like the flavor. I like the idea of like the animal transformations and like this having spells, can be able to do a little bit of everything.
Sure.
That's the thing I like. I don't like it when characters are too specialized into one thing. That's why I usually multi-class all my characters.
Sure. Totally get that. From the D&D standpoint, what is your favorite monster?
My favorite monster. That's a good question, actually. There are so many.
Yeah, I know. I've had the gamut of answers from people. I'm just always curious about, I'm always curious what people think. There's some mythos behind monsters that I really enjoy, so I have my own favorites. But
yeah, there are so many monsters. Oh my god. I mean, there are so many of them, but I don't remember the name. I have a mental block, but like when you go into Illithid caves and there's like these things that eat your brain or whatever.
Oh, mind flayers?
No, yeah, it's mind flayers, but it's like a servant of the mind flayer. But I have a very this mind blank right now, but it looks like a brain with 4 legs.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember exactly what the name of them are.
I'll say it's an intellect devourer. I'm probably very a sadistic person, but I really enjoy that monster.
Yeah.
Like it's creepy, it's weird, and it's so dangerous.
Yeah. And they don't look dangerous on the outside. They look kind of stupid, but they're pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the kind of monster that I enjoy, because when people see them, like they don't know what they are, and they're just like, okay, it's a brain with 4 legs, what the hell? And then they proceed to attack them, and they're like, okay, no, I'm leaving now. I'm not staying here. And then they are proceeding to be completely traumatized at the end of the world. But I kind of enjoy these kind of monsters that look silly, but they are completely dangerous and disgusting. I mean, there's one monster in Pathfinder that I pretty hate, and it's like a Sugathi. It's kind of similar to a Intellect Devourer, but it's like a worm. And we had one in a game, and I never want to encounter that thing again. Like, it's disgusting. I don't like it. It's CR6, and I don't know why, and I will never know why. Like, you go around it, it makes you confused and insane, and like you confuse more, and you die. And it's like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I get you.
But yeah, the Intellect Devourer, I mean, it's a monster that looks silly, but I think I enjoy putting it like with mind flayers and stuff that are creepy because it's bad, but I like it.
Yeah, very good. Well, John, it was great to have you on. I was so glad to talk to you because I've been looking at your works and I've always been interested. First of all, I love the name. It just drew me right in from the get-go. But when I saw Adventures in ADHD and then Claws and Paws, I was like, we have to talk because the Claws and Paws thing was just so adorable. So I had to know more about it. But so your Kickstarter launches on the 22nd. I will have all the links down below on all their website, wherever you want to find their stuff through either Itch, the Kickstarter. There's a lot of different resources. I will link back to you have a Ko-fi?
Yeah, we have a Ko-fi, we have a Patreon, we have a website, we have a link tree with everything.
Yes. I will link to the link tree and you can go ahead and click whatever you like. That'll
yeah, exactly. We have like millions of links for also support groups for like young LGBTQ people and LGBTQ people in Quebec, because there are some people on Twitter maybe that live in Quebec and don't know about some resources. So we have links for that and links for other helping things for like suicide prevention and everything like that. So you can go through our links, and if you need help, it's there.
We are both here for anybody who is experiencing anything where they feel like they need to talk to somebody. We as a community are here for you, and you're not alone. So I appreciate you putting that as part of your link tree, and it's something that's so important, as well as the ADHD resources. I have plenty of friends who have ADHD and their symptoms vary wildly. So I'm glad that somebody is addressing that as well.
Yeah, and as you said, if people need to talk, I mean, we are usually checking out the Twitter accounts of if anybody like feel they need to talk about whether they have trouble with their gender or whatever, like they can always hit us up, and we have a social worker on the team, so we can like ask questions, try to come back to you. So if anybody needs help, like we're always there.
Yes, important. We're all one big community, and we're all here for each other. So I appreciate that, John, and thank you again for coming on. And I cannot wait for your Kickstarter to launch.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
Of course. We'll talk soon.